The Battle of the Titans, although they may be wounded, they are still ferocious, they are still vicious. Guys, two of the best teams that we had in 2021 now go head-to-head in their first bout of 2022. Do you have an idea as to what to expect?
I think it's a bit of a bloodbath. Third versus fifth. This matchup has huge playoff implications, and I'm sure both will be super hungry to crack into the top four. For the Chiefs, they're looking to solidify their spot, maybe even jump up above Invictus into that second spot. Whereas Elevate, they're just teetering outside the four, and a win here is really critical for them.
Well, let's start talking about Elevate, the roster that blew us away in 2021 and did even better than that at SI. Really, we were so, I think, upset with that clown, man. That clown is just going to get me every time we jump on the broadcast. But Xenox, I think before the SI performance, we really were, I think, a little bit concerned about Elevate's performance leading into the last two stages. I can't take this serious. Just take it away, Xenox. What are you thinking?
I don't know what I'm thinking anymore. You've completely thrown me off, Manic. But I will say for Elevate, they started slow this stage. Obviously, as you mentioned, with SI and everything beforehand, we maybe expected them to be in a better position coming into this stage. And of course, Playday 1, they lost straight away to Renatus. As has already been pointed out many times over, Mr. Punch, Mark have come in, but they have been very good inclusions. So that kind of takes away from some of the slow growing pains that we saw at the start of this stage, because it's really easy to look at the new guys and be like, oh, well, it's because, you know, Mr. Punch and Mark have come in, but they have been really good. And yeah, maybe it took them a little while to get going, admittedly. Yeah, they lost to Renatus. Then they played what has ended up being a very informed Direwolves. And since then, Elevate only ended up losing one more game, and that was the 8-7 loss to IG, which was a banger on Playday 5. So clearly in form. They must win this game. Otherwise, it's still going to be quite dire getting into the top four in terms of then having to rely on so many other circumstances around them. Yes, they've got Fury in Playday 7. Bank in the 3 points. No doubt about it.
Sorry, what is Onigiri doing?
Come on, mate. Bit of professionalism. Trying to get through my piece here, guys, in one go.
Sorry,
and
blame Onigiri. It wasn't.
Onigiri hasn't done anything wrong here.
If you saw it, you saw it.
He's innocent. He's the cutest player in APAC. Don't blame him. But no, look, if they do win this tonight, I think that's top four secured. So big game.
Certainly is, Guz. They're coming up against a team that definitely are formidable. The Chiefs, although their stage 1 of 2022 have had a lot of questions around it, I think that they've proven at the very least that the roster changes are viable. Now it's about, in these last two play days, them really securing the deal.
Yeah, it really is about sealing it. Now, I don't know mathematically if a three-pointer here would be enough to get them a top four locked in. I would have to say it's looking very good for them if they do. In fact, it would give them a 6-point gap to Elevate in 5th, so I can only assume it would be enough. And that's ultimately their goal. Obviously, a lot of questions heading into the stage. Can the Chiefs be as good, if not better, than last year? I don't think they're quite at that level, but it looks like they have the potential to even eclipse it, maybe even heading into the playoffs or beyond that, heading into the rest of the year. And you talked about roster changes and inclusions. Bounce and Balls obviously has been one of the standouts. A 1.22 rating, that's the highest on the team and one of the highest in the league. And that hasn't necessarily taken the spotlight away from some other players that can perform, like Worthy, for example, who's on a 1.2 rating and not trailing too far behind in the stats department. So it feels like at the moment the Chiefs have got their roles pretty down pat. They're looking like a solid unit, and this is going to be a real test for them.
Digital's back in his bedroom. Do you think that's a buff for him, Xenox? Is there something in behind that? He's been, I don't know where he's been the last couple of play days.
I swear he was in some like linen closet or something. We saw the sheets behind it. But no, it is a buff. We cannot underestimate the bedroom buff for Digital and the Chiefs. But look, bringing it back to some serious notions here. For the Chiefs, off a loss in Playday 5 to the Knights, which I think for many would have actually been an unexpected loss. Yeah. Unless you're a Knights fan, obviously. So for the Chiefs, it's all about bouncing back and getting this win, because you get this win, that's top four secured. I'm pretty sure 13 points is 100% locked in. So for both teams, a lot on the line for this game, is why it's sort of prefaced in our pre-match discussion at the start of this show, is that this feels almost like a playoff kind of matchup.
It certainly does. Unfortunately, it's only the best of one. We don't get the full 3, but we do get at least a map, and we have to find out what that one is. Let's go to the Vetoes and see what determines. We go to Kafe. Okay, Guz. Don't know how much Kafe we've really seen, if at all. This is actually one of only 2 maps that we have seen no playtime on.
Yeah, I'm just happy I'm not casting it. Neither of these teams have played Kafe, so again, with the roster changes and whatnot, I don't think there's really a whole lot we can extract in terms of the map that has been selected. I will say it's a little bit intriguing, the 2 maps prior to that were banned out. I don't think the Chiefs are still very competent on Clubhouse. So the fact that Elevate didn't want to take them there, a little bit scary, even considering, you know, Chiefs lost to Knights in that previous play day. So they could have maybe exploited a weakness there. And then I think the Skyscraper ban from the Chiefs is probably reserving that for playoffs. I think it's probably in their best interest to save that map for a little bit later in a couple of weeks' time.
Xenox, are you sick of the saving strats storyline as well? Or is it just me?
No, I'll just say I think Elevate's actually won this video quite comfortably, because I look at the last 3 maps and I think all 3 maps are maps that Elevate would be happy to play on.
Yeah.
The ban is a little bit surprising, as Guz sort of mentioned, because I think Chiefs are vulnerable there. Maybe that just more comes down to Elevate's playstyle and their own feelings as to how they want to play on Clubhouse. Maybe they don't feel confident in themselves rather than Chiefs being confident on it. But yeah, Skyscraper, we've seen Elevate have been playing it locally, so obviously they're happy to go there. Chiefs, we haven't seen them at all on Skyscraper. Yeah. And Kafe is a map that I don't think Elevate will be too shy to go to either. So yeah, it's a little concerning. It's a bit of a rough one, because I think Chiefs have been really liking Bank, whereas Elevate just straight ban Bank. They don't like it, they don't play it, so that kind of takes one away from the Chiefs, and which is a topic where by the end of last year we were praising the map pool of the Chiefs as a team and how great they could play on all these maps. Don't know if they quite have that strength anymore. There's some maps that when they get taken off the board, I do feel like the Chiefs are vulnerable on other kind of maps.
Well, the instability of Kafe now should be very interesting. It's the first time we're going to see it played in over 21 matches here in the APAC South League. And the 2 to take you through all of the action, it's Raven and it's Dev.
Cheers, Rob. Back to Kafe. Haven't been here in a while, but this should be a really, really good game, Brandon. There's a lot at stake for these teams. Chiefs currently 3rd in the standings, but very much vulnerable of slipping out of that top 4. Elevate on the outside in 5th, looking in.
Yeah, look, I think this is certainly a big game. I think it was talked up a lot on the desk. You just mentioned it. It really is a big one for how the playoffs can shape up. I think in particular the fact that Elevate, since the first Playday where it looked like they were really struggling, feels like they've started to really build back some form. The fact that they pushed IG so hard in that previous Playday, it gives me a lot of faith that they have a great shot against Chiefs in this matchup.
That's it. And while we haven't seen Kafe played recently by either of these teams with their new rosters, we have seen in the past last year, and even for Elevate at 6 Invitational, some Kafe matches, Elevate had a very close loss to FaZe Clan, major champions, and a win over EU's Rogue on this very map. Chiefs haven't played it since they beat Team Bliss in OCN finals last year, but a match to try and fight for playoffs, Elevate versus the Chiefs.
We're excited to see how this plays out, because yeah, look, the desk prefaced it perfectly. Chiefs generally don't play a lot of Kafe. It's certainly not a map that we saw from them even at the best of times last year when they were up and about and it was strong, or their map pool was stronger in general. So yeah, I'm really curious how this is going to go for them. Obviously with their massive roster change, it's probably going to play out very differently. And also they've obviously had a lot of time to work on it. So look, I'm quite excited to see how this goes.
Finka ban from Elevate, something that they absolutely love these days, and Chiefs have played their fair share of Finka, so probably a smart ban from them. The Valkyrie also going down, one that we know a lot of the Chiefs players like to play and just enables all kinds of shenanigans on a map like Kafe, vertical C4s. Outside camps, not quite as good these days, thanks to them only lasting 10 seconds outside before being disabled, but hey, it's something. For the final defensive ban, I'm wondering if we'll see Mira slip through the veto or not. Indeed, she does. Maestro banned out instead.
That's an interesting one from Chiefs, banning out that Maestro. Obviously, identifying something, bit of a target ban, something to that effect. And I don't know, I'm curious how this is going to have an effect on these defense rounds, given it was banned by Chiefs. I guess we won't really see the full effect until Elevate get onto their defense. But other than that, you know, I don't think too much of an impact, I should say, from these operator bans. I think it's going to kind of have Kafe play out pretty much how we always see it play out, you know?
Maybe, but I don't know. I feel like surely we're going to see a bit of Mira played here, not in the first round. Mira is just so powerful, especially holding piano, holding the top floor with Miras at Cocktail and at Tarps can be really, really powerful. So we'll see if that ends up making its way in later on. For now, Chiefs, a lot of information on the pulse. and 2 C4s to go along with it. Bouncing on some projectile denials and a fantastic weapon. Ethan with the deployable shield on the alibi, worthy to prevent the rushes with Malusi. A good, well-rounded setup for the Chiefs, and I'd say a fairly loose setup. They don't really want to confine themselves to playing on specific positions like mirror windows. They want to play a little bit more mobile and roam around the map.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That's actually why I think we won't see much mirror played anyway, because I think especially for both of these teams, they don't really favor fairly static play styles. You know, they're quite loose teams that like to play off of momentum in particular. So I think there is sometimes room for that mirror, but yeah, we'll certainly see whether it does rotate in. But to your point, I think the defense lineup here from Chiefs is fantastic for this site defense. Of course, it is reading dining. And look, I'm curious to see how Elevate approach this one. Certainly would expect them to want to try and take some vertical control.
Tends to be step 1 of Kafe. Rappel up to the roof. Open up the hatches. And that's Sledge's job. Worried about C4s, though. So Mr. Punch meekly punches open those hatches. Now it's going to be a game of droning up and seeing what kind of contest they're going to find on this top floor. I believe Chiefs had several rotation holes in Freezer, so playing very mobile, as we were saying, on that top floor.
Already some pressure in through that dining window as well, which is quite interesting from Sapper, just seeing if he can catch somebody rotating in through that corridor between dining and reading. Not to be. Almost halfway through this round now, Dev, and we're kind of yet to see something particularly decisive happen. Mr. Punch in on the red stairs there hasn't opted to try and further flush out through piano or anything like that. And often if you see a vertical clear across to cocktail for these kinds of attacks, you kind of want to aim for the 1 minute mark where you've got that cocktail control. So if we're gauging that as kind of the KPI, so to speak, for Elevate's attack, it's kind of tracking a little slow at this point.
Hit me with some KPIs. Love it when you talk dirty. All right. We got some C4s on the board, though, so that's why Elevate are so scared to walk onto that soft floor in piano and bar. Information on Boydie, the Pulse player. But Elevate, they can't dilly-dally forever, can they? They need to start flushing out these positions, bounce and holding behind the deployable shield. Oh, what a shot there. The perfect crosshair placement and pre-fire, and Mark goes down.
Mark does go down. He was the one holding diffuser. Now, of course, not a massive impact right now, but still something that has to be recovered. And that is what Mr. Punch has gone and done. And again, to the point of time, Elevate just not giving themselves a whole lot of time to really have control. That being said, they have pushed deep in through reading here. Digital seems pretty aware as DCH does pick up Boydie. A good refrag at least gives Elevate some kind of pressure as Onigiri backs it up. 3 versus 3 there with just 25 seconds to go.
A real chance now for Elevate as they start their execute. Is anyone watching Pillar? Ethan goes down. Worthy on for the peak. It's just him in a 1v3. An uncharacteristic whiff for Worthy. And Elevate pull the rug out from under Chiefs' feet and take the first round.
Was a good round in the end from Elevate, although I would say a bit scary for that first half of it, or even the first 2 minutes. You know, like it felt like they took such a long time to get in and get some control, and even then just kind of contest Chiefs a little bit. You know, it felt like Chiefs just had not a lot of pressure for the majority of that round, and just all of a sudden Elevate were like, all right, let's go into reading, let's get some picks. They did. It was off the back of DCH, opening it up for Elevate at least, and look, they never looked back at that point.
I'll be pretty happy with that. I see a slight smile creeping onto Onigiri's face. And a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Like, that was really good opportunistic play from Elevate. And I think that's probably a descriptor that encapsulates Elevate's playstyle really well. They might not do the normal things as well as other teams at their level. Even teams like Wildcard, I would say, are probably better than Elevate at going through the motions, ticking the tick boxes that you would usually do. You know, on Kafe, it's take top floor, open up the cocktail, take cocktail control, etc. Open up the floor. But that's not really how Elevate played. They, in fact, lost their player on upstairs, and they found all these other opportunities, played off of that openings that they created.
Certainly did. So look, I think Chiefs, I don't know whether you'd say a bit for them to work on. How would you even think about kind of countering that playstyle from Elevate? Because you could look at that round and be like, you know what? Pretty good from Chiefs. They didn't overextend. They held their grounds. Boydie got the opening kill. Generally did a good job. They just left one slight opening, and that was it. Elevate capitalized.
And for Chiefs now, I mean, very early days, but I think they need to be really hyper aware of the way that Elevate are going to play, because Elevate will be like that. And I think that some of the Chiefs guys stepped up into it well. Digital on site did an amazing job of the quick peek with the shotgun, but damage was done at that point. And he unfortunately did expose himself following that to Onigiri. And it goes to show that the way that Elevate play is really unpredictable. And even if you know Elevate's play style is to be that aggressive and that opportunistic, you still look silly when it happens. I mean, you think of the number of teams at Six Invitational that looked at Elevate and thought, okay, we know these guys' play style, and then subsequently lost to them. Elevate beat Rogue 2-1. They beat TSM 2-0. They had some fantastic results at SI against some of the best teams in the world. In fact, the best team in the world, arguably at the time. Well, not arguably, at the time, TSM, world champions. These guys beat them 2-0.
Yeah, they did. And look, I think the trap with Elevate's playstyle often when it gets analyzed is it kind of gets shoved into that box of, they're pretty nutty. They play that kind of APAC aggression. I feel like it's starting to be relabeled as something a little bit different, but that's what they generally go for. They'll get up in your face. They'll be aggressive. They go for those kinds of plays like we just saw in the final phase of that round. But that's the trap, because they can actually also play very structured. And sometimes we see Elevate's attacks, in a way, that round was definitely a great example of it. They can be quite slow, like they're not keen to always take the gunfights. It's always about turning it on when it needs to be turned on. And I think that just so often catches teams off guard, and it can be tough to handle because you're kind of anticipating it for so long, right? Like you start to see this build up from attack. I guess as an offender, you think about it like, hey, we've got 30 seconds on the clock. They haven't engaged with any of us, or we got the opening pick. So you feel pretty comfortable at that point. But just out of nowhere, Elevate can hit that switch, and it's really hard to kind of counter that. It can be really tough.
That's what this team is known for, creating chaos and playing around it, playing off of each other and the opportunities that they create. And Elevate, let's be real, had a really shocking start to 2022. Stage 1, they came back from SI. They had so much hype behind them for being arguably the best performing, definitely the most dark horse team at SI, probably the best performing APAC team at SI as well. That's probably debatable with Dom 1, but Elevate, high expectations. Everyone's looking at them to be the dominating force in APAC South, but they've made 2 roster changes. People are thinking, is this going to be the same team we saw last year? And it's very much the same story for the Chiefs. Everyone knows Worthy, everyone knows Digital, but a lot of people are seeing, okay, Boydie, so he's played for this team Rafflecopter, who've done all right, but didn't manage to promote through the league. They lost a wild card. They've got this guy Bouncin, who has just taken 3 months off the game, hasn't played since stage 2 last year. What are Chiefs really going to be able to do, especially after replacing 2, from what on the outside looked like really successful players in Fisher Guy and God Legion?
Yeah, and look, I think if you want to dive into some stats on those changes, Bouncin in particular feels like one that's worked out pretty well for them. He is in the top 3 for rating. Speakeasy and Nate top 2 in the league at the moment for rating. And then it's Bouncin actually ahead of Worthy. He's also equal with Worthy on KD at +17 for the stage so far. Equal with Worthy on entries at +4 for the stage. It's actually worked out to be quite a good acquisition for Chiefs. So yeah, look, Bouncin, while potentially quite unknown by a lot of the APAC audience, he really is making quite a statement and a name for himself in this first stage. So I think it's working out quite well for Chiefs, and I think a lot of what we've seen from Chiefs gameplay in this stage is just the classic, they've made 2 roster changes kind of issues, where they're just grinding through a couple of those teething moments where the synergy doesn't quite click, or something is just a little bit off in terms of coordination. But I think throughout the year, it feels like this roster is certainly going to be cementing a spot in the top 4 for APAC South.
No doubt about it. Chiefs were looking even better than that at the start of the previous Playday. They were in 2nd on the standings. And yes, these roster changes have proved to... There's no doubt that Boydie and Bouncin are insane players, Bouncin in particular. Like you said, if you're a new player coming into... If you're a rookie coming into this level of game, and you can manage to get into the top 5 in any of the MVP categories, good on you. Bouncin is 3rd for rating, 3rd for KD overall, 5th for entry. He's just so consistent across, a variety of stats, but particularly anything entry related, anything frag related. This man steps it up. But let's not forget that like you said, team chemistry, I think deeper than that, roles on a team are changed as well. And it's not just the roles of the people that have been introduced. You think about losing Fisho Guy, neither Bouncer nor Boydie directly replaced Fisho Guy, that's for sure. God Legion perhaps a little bit more of a one-to-one since he was a fragger anyway, but you've lost the primary support on this roster. So who steps up? It's Ethan to step up and be that primary voice, the in-game leader, and it's Digital who steps up in a lot of supportive roles, on a lot of supportive positions. He's no longer playing the vert. So suddenly, it's not just Bouncer and Boydie that have a lot of work to do learning how to play with this team, but Digital and Ethan have to completely relearn how they play the game.
I think that works out quite well for Digital in particular, because a lot of his career actually has been from more support-focused roles. So I think for him, it's probably not as big of a change. I think also now the spot that Digital is in with his career, I think it's probably a lot more comfortable for him to be able to go back on that support role with all that extra experience. He's played on an international land now, you know, that really changes how a player, I guess, approaches the game. So I think it has all come at a pretty decent time. And look, time will tell whether this works out for Chiefs in terms of their role changes and their roster changes. And look, they lost that first round, but we've got a lot of Siege to play, and we're finally back into play at Def.
Let's go. We might even have audio if we're lucky as well. I think we do. So let's go, boys. Bar and Cocktail is picked up. Chiefs went down to Reading in the first round. Now they're switching it up. And they've brought the Warden. It's Worthy playing the Warden. Now, is that just for the shield, I wonder? Or is that because he's got something cheeky that he intends to actually do with the smart glasses? I've seen a lot of people just pick Warden because he's a gunner. Like, let's be real. MPX with a 1.5 times is a headshot machine. Very little recoil. If you're a good player, you got that in your hands, you're expected to get a couple of kills each round.
There's absolutely that factor, and look, I can definitely remember many highlight clips of Worthy last year with the MPX, of course, on the Warden, so look, it could be a thing of comfort. But I think also for this defense, you know, there is often situations where maybe there's a smoke that goes deep in through bar, or you even smoke off the back store so that you can kind of get that default plant around the paintings near the new hatch there, and the Warden could be a good counter for that. Maybe they're anticipating some kind of quicker plant or something from Elevate, you never quite know. If we look at Elevate's lineup, well, we can see they actually are quite smoke heavy. DCH bringing 2 smokes, as well as the Capitao. So it could be just a good read from Chiefs in that regard.
And funnily enough, for Elevate, Capitao was actually a repick during the prep phase. Of course, the Chiefs won't necessarily have revealed that they're playing the Warden. In fact, I doubt that Elevate are aware as of yet. The Capitao is going to be very good for clearing out piano control using the firebolts, but will the smokes potentially be to Elevate's own demise if Worthy is able to peek through them?
Definitely could be. So, see how Elevate manage to tackle that one as they get to it, but so far, they're working their way towards it, and this has been pretty decent first minute. Obviously, whole part of Kafe is get up to the roof, start to get these drones in, open the hatches, you know, get the wall open in towards top red. It's very procedural on this map, and I guess the good thing for Elevate is first minute, they've kind of ticked the boxes they need to tick already, so that's a good start.
It's not bad. Pretty classic Kafe. Now, Elevator, not usually a classic team, though. They like to throw a bit of a spanner in the works sometimes. What's Onigiri doing on the roof? Ooh, Sapper's got an idea here with the smokes. And Worthy has just used up the last of his smart glasses. He'll have to wait for that to regenerate. 10 seconds. DCH also has a flank opportunity up wide. What is the play?
Yeah, it feels like they are wanting to maybe make something happen a little earlier here. You are right, DCH is kind of waiting to pull the trigger on potential flank up white. And once again, Chiefs playing very patient, you know, they're really not giving Elevate anything. They played that pretty well in the first round, just happened to be not going their direction. And I can't help but feel that Elevate are kind of ready to maybe go for some kind of earlier execute right now.
All right, here come the 2 smokes, and Worthy can see through them, but he needs to wait for the glasses to regenerate. Now he can look on through and call for his team. What is happening on the side? No one down as of yet, as the smokes have subsided. Ethan down below with the C4. Keep that in the back of your mind as Elevate tries to go for this execute. DCH, though, on the prowl. He may well find Ethan here. Rounding every corner, Ethan has absolutely no clue, but DCH, he backs on out. 20 seconds left, and we are yet to have an engagement in the server. Elevate, they've got to move right now. Worthy can't land the shots. DCH to find the opener, but then the Chiefs, they do come to life. Worthy desperately trying to fight back DCH for another one, and now a 3-on-3. Mr. Punch, he can't plant the diffuser. Boydie is there with the 416 to deny that plant, and that is all she wrote for the Chiefs.
That was a rough one. I really feel like Elevate kind of pulled a false start almost with their Capital utility. You know, they really dumped everything. It felt like the classic, you know, I wouldn't call it a mid-round plant, but just earlier execute than you'd expect. But they just never quite went, and I don't know whether that was just about maybe trying to bait Worthy as the Warden to be in a vulnerable position. You know, maybe they were trying to bait out an opening pick when they weren't actually going for the plant, just to give themselves an actual man advantage for the execute. It's really hard to read exactly how that was supposed to play out, but it got chaotic. Again, it was very similar to round one. You know, it all came down to that final 25 seconds. You called it out. There had basically been 0 engagements until that point, and that's really rough for the attackers. It usually doesn't work out for the attackers in that instance.
Despite Elevate finding the opening pick, it's just desperate at that point, isn't it, when you're forcing through choke points? But nonetheless, Elevate, well, they've been taken down a notch now. Chiefs have gotten around on the board, and I think Chiefs, something that they've done really well so far is just having a really good read and not overextending. For example, like you said, maybe Elevate were just baiting for a pick. Chiefs didn't give it to him. Let's see Elevate. Already really low on drones. They actually lost 3, now 4 of their prep phase drones. And due to playing the Twitch, they only get 4 action phase drones as well. So that's really, really concerning. Elevate have almost lost half of their drone utility already.
Definitely not great. So it's going to come back to bite them. Could be the source. I mean, I hadn't actually kept an eye on it in the previous rounds, but look, it could be a source for some of the slowness in some of these attacks. You know, if you got the drone intel, it certainly is going to make you a little bit more hesitant to progress. So yeah, we will keep an eye on that one. But I think for Elevate here, they really need to just try and be a little bit more efficient as they progress. It feels like this is very similar to the first round. Of course, Chiefs fairly close to being able to close that one out. I would just say that if Elevate can make an opening engagement happen a little bit quicker for them, probably be able to more comfortably close the one out.
So both rounds so far this match, the team who has won the opening engagement has not won the round. So yeah, certainly does make it easier though. There's no doubt about it. Boydie in a great position to get information. Baiting also some shots, feeling that pressure. Mr. Punch there to spray a hole in the wall, and Boydie falls back. Is Elevate going to properly take full top floor control? That is the question. It looks like they may well do.
Feels like it. And to go back to the conversation we had in round one, if that's what they want to do, they really need to get moving, because you kind of want to benchmark yourself at 1 minute of having cocktail control so you actually can get vertical pressure onto the site. So without that, it's going to be challenging. But you can see here they've actually progressed quite deep in through train. So this could be what actually opens up the round.
Got to make a move at some point, Elevate. Sapper starts to move on forward. Here's Mark. He's got the diffuser, and he's now gone out to Pillar. Still not top floor in their hands as of yet, but a breach may well come out onto the wall of reading, facing towards Pillars, all muted at the moment. A nade over the top of the wall or some vertical could help out. There you go. I believe that was an Ash charge below even. I didn't think you could get below, but regardless, 30 seconds left and the opening pick is for Chiefs.
Yeah, definitely a big opening pick there for Chiefs. Throughout all this time kill, Elevate had managed to keep their man advantage, but it is now gone. Breach open, some pressure on site for Chiefs here, but Elevate going to have to dig deep to close this one out.
Great crossfire from Boydie. He's now in a dangerous position on site as the Chiefs just have to hold. Onigiri finds a pick, and now Boydie going to be full flashed as well. Mark, if he checks this corner, no! Mark, you've got to watch for that. Onigiri, though, he does not give up. It's only digital now for the Chiefs with 2 seconds on the timer! The man, the myth, the legend, Onigiri. He clutches it. What a round from him.
Unbelievable timing on the look away as well for Digital. Look, he's going to feel like he got a little bit ripped off there. But at the end of the day, it's once again Elevate doing a great job in those last-minute executes to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. I really felt like Chiefs had that one in the bag, but no, not to be. Elevate able to keep up with them. And Chiefs going to continue to move along. Kitchen cooking, haven't seen that one from them yet, so hopefully this one's a little bit more successful from the Chiefs side.
Yeah, considering that Chiefs have gotten very close on 2 reading rounds, they've got to be asking themselves, how do we lose that, boys? Elevate literally never cleared Cocktail. How are we losing this? I don't know. To be honest, if they were asking me, I don't know. Elevate just have some kind of weird magic about them where they have this ability to win rounds that they really shouldn't be winning. And sometimes it comes down to a player popping off. Onigiri 4-0 since the rehost. That's in the last 2 rounds. Hasn't died as of yet. Nothing to boast about on the round they lost, of course, but something we're seeing a lot of classic Elevate strengths from Elevate, and that's exciting to think that this team that looked a bit rough around the edges after coming back from their roster changes has managed to find the one thing that they always relied upon. It wasn't strategy, it was chemistry.
That's such a great point too. It really feels like every Playday we're just seeing it more and more, and it felt like it was such a great sign about how well they performed against IG last Playday. On Skyscraper as well, you know, new map, never easy to do either. So this is just a continuance of that, and Chiefs are kind of feeling it. So this is, I think, putting some spotlight now onto Chiefs roster in general, not just because they've had a change, but in general. Like, this is down to their ability to adapt to what Elevate are bringing out here. I mean, it was ultimately Chiefs' decision between Skyscraper and Kafe. They decided Kafe, and look, it's never stood out in my mind, at least, as a strong map for the Chiefs in the past.
Yeah, this is the first time Chiefs is playing Kafe as an official comp game with their new roster. And what a great play there from Boydie. Managed to get the down on the mark. Doesn't finish him off, though. And with that as well, Chiefs have been forced completely out of Bakery. Good information as well from DCH behind the cupcake stand. Here's Zappa. What's he going to be able to achieve here? Is he just going to walk straight into sight? This is dangerous. This is so dangerous. Boydie's down. Almost finds Bouncing as well. Worthy can get him back, but it is just so dangerous right now for both teams. As a 3-on-4, Onigiri's hungry for more. He gets Worthy. He gets the double. 6-0. Elevate have a 3-on-2 with 1:30 left on the clock.
And just massive pressure coming through prep. Onigiri just on an absolute frag fest, even taking out his own teammates. And yes, look, poor Digital, he's left in this 1vx situation once more. Chiefs absolutely left reeling. Still a whole minute for Digital to try and burn. Onigiri's going for this plant. I'd say this is going to be a real tough one for Digital to clutch out Dev, and in fact, doesn't get much of a chance. Onigiri, of course, it's Onigiri, gets the swing. And wow, unreal round from Elevate.
Again, how do they keep getting away with this? That is just classic Elevate. Onigiri is having a laugh right now. He came back from Europe, from Six Invitational, and he's just hitting another level. He was not always the star player on this roster. He's always been great, but with Nerix and Napiu, he was sometimes shown up. And now that they've been removed from the roster, I guess it's just the Onigiri show.
Yep. 8-0 so far since the rehost. Honestly cannot remember what he was like beforehand, but
I'll find out.
Oh yes, look at you go. Scrub back on that VOD, Dev.
I am, mate.
But no, look, yeah, he really has started to come into his own in this system with the roster, which I think is great. You know, sometimes you just have to enable star players to be star players. Like you said, we saw what he was capable of on the international stage at SI against some of the most incredible teams we have in Rainbow Six Siege. So you got to unlock that locally as well.
Yeah, we're looking right now at the world record Six Invitational single map kill record holder. Most kills in a single map, 27 kills at a Six Invitational. And Onigiri is the guy who did it. And yeah, he certainly hasn't slowed down since returning back. Yeah, strange game this has been so far. Very strange game to see how Elevate can always somehow pull the rabbit out of the hat consistently every single time. And here you go, I've got the stats. Onigiri was 1-0.
Okay, so he's technically 9-0 right now.
Yeah, 9-0. That is a bit of silly business.
Bit of silly business indeed. It's quite the streak to have off 4 rounds. So obviously we'll keep a close eye on that, but obviously we'll also be keeping a close eye on how Chiefs kind of back it up for here, because even with a lot of their defenses, there's not a lot I would say they're doing particularly wrong. Maybe they could try and start to play a little more aggressive and initiate some of those earlier engagements to throw Elevate off the game, because a lot of it is just Elevate burning time, and then they're just thriving in these kind of chaotic executes. The kitchen cooking round win was the biggest exception. They kind of hit that go button a little bit earlier, but regardless, I think it's a really tough spot for Chiefs on exactly what they do.
Oh, that's absolutely it. But Ethan finding the first pick on the DCH will certainly help. And the question now for Ethan, does he try and play passive and wait for him to be hunted to delay time, or does he need to get back to site to help out his team? This is Bar Cocktail. Chiefs have already won it once before.
Of course, the only site they've won, and it looked pretty good for them. It did get a little bit scary, but ultimately Elevate ran out of time to kind of salvage something. So that's really where Elevate need to put some pressure back on themselves to try and increase that timing. But yeah, great C4 from Ethan's, backed up by a kill from Bouncer, and just like that, Onigiri and Sapper in this 2v5 situation. This definitely could be the round that we see Onigiri's little deathless streak go by the wayside.
Great showing from Ethan this round, though. You can't deny it. He stepped up hugely. Great little quick peek there from Bouncin. Just for info, spots out Onigiri, but not eager to overpeak that. In fact, he falls back. Quite the opposite. Looking to play more passively. Okay, Ethan caught with his pants down, looking the wrong way. Bouncin taken out by Onigiri. A 2v3 now from the 2-on-5. And Elevate, they've got a solid chance here. What is going on?
What is going on?
What are you looking at, mate? Onigiri's right there. He's just cracked double digits. That's 11-0. A 2v2 now. 20 seconds. And surely Onigiri and Sapper have a chance here. Digital, he's been spotted. A 2 versus 5 to the 2 versus 0. How does Elevate keep getting away with this?
I can't believe that just happened. I feel like I cursed it. I said this is going to be Onigiri's deathless record going by the wayside.
The man's 12-0.
Unreal. I actually cannot believe they just put out that 2v5, Dev. Unbelievable. I was saying I'm not too sure what else Chiefs could be doing. I'll tell you what, they don't want to be losing 5v2s. That's definitely not going to help.
It's unreal how many kills that round was just Elevate staring at a Chiefs player that was looking the complete wrong direction. I don't know what you can read into that with, but man, Chiefs certainly need a moment to take a breath, and that's exactly what they're going to do right now. A tactical pause, a much needed one of that.
Really is needed. That was the worst round by far I think we've seen from Chiefs. Look, kitchen cooking, one thing, Elevate in general just pushed aggressively through prep, got a couple of pretty big picks. It obviously is a massive cut through sight as well, so that's one thing. But they had a 5v2 advantage there. They'd done everything right to that point. Ethan had a really great round opening to get that little 2-piece. There was so much going right for Chiefs, and they let that one slip to just machines running through sight. It was unbelievable to watch. So look, I think it's a great time to take this tack, because some things went seriously wrong, I guess, within their comms, within their structure on that round.
It's so funny. I'm just thinking back to the interview that Onigiri did after he broke the kill record at 6 Invitational. And he was asked by the interviewer, what were you thinking during that match when you were breaking the kill record? What were you thinking? Because they went like overtime. It was insane. And he was thinking, okay, I just need to focus up and carry my team. That is legit what he was thinking. And look, not to discredit Sapper's role in that last round, but man, that is absolutely what's happened. Look at the scoreboard right now. 11 kills for Onigiri, 5 for Sapper, and then 1 for DCH, 0 for Mr. Punch and Mark. What is that?
Yeah,
what? It's unreal.
I think it is unreal. And on top of that, Mark and Mr. Punch have actually been performing pretty well. Mr. Punch in particular has been carrying his weight in the frag department for Elevate. So the fact that he hasn't even had to have much of an impact at this point, Onigiri has just been eating all those up. It's it's a great sign for Elevate here that they've got these stars that are really starting to punch their weight. And
pun intended.
Yes, I actually didn't, but hey, great. Look, I just think it's pretty unreal to watch, but it's also scary for Chiefs, because I expected this one to be pretty close. I was very concerned when it went to Kafe, and just feel, unfortunately, it's just not working out for Chiefs.
Yeah, honestly, like this is about as frustrating as it gets for Chiefs. I'm getting frustrated just watching because they're not. What are they doing wrong? Like macro strategy, there's nothing really wrong. They had a 5v2 last round. Chiefs played so well, some really good timing. Elevate didn't strategically win that last round. They just found picks in a 2v5 until there were no more picks to find. Chiefs really, they just. I know this is going to sound really, really like basic, but it feels like the only thing they're doing wrong is just not tightening up when they have the advantage and just letting Elevate walk all over them.
Yeah, it's a good point though. Like going back to basics, it is about at that stage setting yourself up with crossfires so that you just trade it out for the wins, right? Especially when you've got such a man advantage. I really thought you were going to say it sounds basic, but all they need to do is kill Onigiri. I mean, that could fly as well. But look, I think
It would help.
it would definitely help. But I think it's a bit of a mindset game now for Chiefs. Like they just need to brush past a lot of these issues. Things have been generally going all right for them. It just hasn't surmounted to them actually putting rounds on the scoreboard. So I think if they just stick to their guns, try and close out this round, look, a 2-4 defense half on Kafe, not awful. It's certainly still a position you can come back from.
Historically, one of the biggest strengths of this Chiefs roster was their ability to have mental resilience and keep spirits high. We always talked about, this team was always having a laugh. They had the sports psychologist, Michelle, who used to work with this team. I do not believe she does so anymore. They certainly could need the mental boost right now as this execute's looking imminent.
They've made some really good progress here, and it looks like Sapa in a great fragging position. Onigiri about to pinch in a similar position as well. Gonna realize they've got all of this control. This is where it starts to get a little bit sketchy for Chiefs. Again, got a lot of ground to cover, but 20 seconds at least.
And Worthy jumping out the window is spotted and taken down. Now the execute starting to come about. The diffuser is on the mark and he has been taken down. Cold on the ground. Onigiri finds his first death of the match, and it's just ECH. He does not last. The Chiefs finally break this losing streak and they come back to manage to get 2 defense rounds in their half.
Yeah, look, certainly not ideal, certainly not great, but I think salvageable for Chiefs because felt like Elevate could have ran away with that half. I really feel like we could have been looking at a 5-1 scoreline. That's never great. So I think this is manageable for Chiefs. They can just push that half to the back of their minds now. Don't worry about it. It was defense. Time to go for the attacks. I think a lot of what they did on their defenses was fine. Just ultimately, they were losing some pretty critical moments against Elevate in those late rounds. But also, there was that thrown clutch. So I think, again, just put it to the back of the minds. Focus on these attacks.
It's going to be a difficult one. We don't have any stats for how APAC South's Kafe is trending in terms of how attack-sided it is because we haven't played it yet. But I don't know. Raven, maybe you have some insight. I just feel like Kafe should be defender-sided as a map. You look at the pool, it should be defender-sided, right?
Yeah, I mean, historically it has been defender-sided. I can think of many a Kafe games that I've watched that have gone 5-1 defense halves and even gone to OT. Or a 4-2 defense half was the very big common scoreline that we saw. So it's always hard to say when we go season to season how much that's changed, and it's just not a map that we've seen played a lot in APAC. I looked earlier, and even in APAC North, it's been played literally just once. It was leaning defender-sided, so I think it was 66% overall. I've closed the tab now. But regardless, it's really just not a map that we're seeing a whole lot of play on in APAC. So it's a bit hard to gauge, but look, if I was to say, I think it is defender-sided.
Six Invitational across over 300 rounds. Kafe was a dead 50-50 split.
Oof. That's impressive.
I know. If anything, to be dead 50-50 after 312 rounds, that's pretty something. But now Chiefs, they got to get back on the horse. They broke the momentum, and that's exactly what they needed. Now they need to string together a couple of rounds with it. This could be the opening pick, though, for Boydie. Surely he spotted the feed, but doesn't overpeak.
Also, surely you spotted the Amaru there, Dev, on the digital. I'm actually very intrigued what they're going to try and do here. I'm getting the feeling that it's going to be the pop-up through the hatch, maybe, in Laundry, Or maybe they'll just go the straight cocktail plan.
It's got to be the single window. Everyone always does. People call it heaven, or the cocktail balcony window, if you will. That's the strat, and that's where he is at the minute.
Look, he might just be right here. We'll see how it gets used. Guess they're kind of going for a bit of a high-risk play, try and catch Elevate off guard. I think it's a good read. There isn't a massive amount of holding on that cocktail side. Onigiri's there, but he's low. So I think it's definitely manageable. And I think if Chiefs play their cards right, they could pull off this execute with this Amaru.
Onigiri is the one to try and hold on. He's been droned out, and he misses the drone. All right, mate. A nade comes through. A player repelling on 2 of his windows as well. Really feeling that pressure. And of course, this is the bomb site here. A cocktail. Onigiri in such a precarious position. He's going to stick to it. Moves a bit. Oh my God, nearly wins the fight with bouncing through the 4. But now Chiefs have a real good chance.
Yeah, and Mr. Punch, though, really good read by him. He's taken back control of Cocktail. So that means it's going to slow down Chiefs just a little bit longer. And they don't have much more time to hold this off. They're going to have to start to make some decisions about how they shape up this execute. Because Mr. Punch is a thorn in their side. If this frag grenade doesn't hit, this could be challenging.
Oh, only does a bit of damage, doesn't take him out. Chiefs relying on this cocktail push. They're going to need to have an amazing play from the White Stairs and Digital. You called it, Raven. Potentially to come up from the hatch. Here it is. But this is going to be desperate. It is red perfectly. Mr. Punch. He goes for the left hook and the right hook. The triple kill. And now Worthy. He's out of the game. Elevate. They go up 5 rounds to 2.
Yeah, look, unfortunate for Chiefs. They had a window there where they needed that to work. I don't want to pin it all on one player, but I think the window player, can't remember who it was at that stage.
Throw him under the bus, mate.
Yeah, look, they shouldn't have let Mr. Punch retake. It was the ultimate downfall here. Mr. Punch, obviously he got 3 kills from this position, but also once they killed Onigiri, they actually basically had cocktail control. They had vertical below in reading. They were pretty set. They just had to pull the trigger quick. It was just the nature of the play they were going for. And yeah, Mr. Punch getting in, it just ruined it completely, quite obviously. And that one's going to go begging. It was a risky play in the first place, but yeah, now it's rough for the Chiefs. They're looking at Elevate there on that 5 scoreline, just 1 round away from making it have to be an OT game.
Considering the stakes of this match, keep in mind, Chiefs are currently sitting comfortably in a playoffs position, and they have been for quite some time. At the start of last Playday, they were in 2nd place, only behind Direwolves. Now they're also behind IG, 10 points they're on, in 3rd place. Knights just behind them, and then Elevate, sitting on the outside, looking in, desperately fighting for a playoffs position in 5th on 7 points. If Elevate win this, they will be tied for points with Chiefs, but have the head-to-head win and overtake their position in playoffs.
Huge. It's like we said at the start of the game, this one would have big implications for playoffs. It's just the nature of these positions. And speaking of implications, that one's going to have him. DCH getting that opening pick onto Onigiri. Looked like a run out. Didn't see the exact nature, but oof, that's it's not great. Worthy off the board. Speaking of Worthy, feel like we've hardly said his name, Dev. Really not having much of an impact in this game.
To be honest, I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Worthy this season compared to last year at all. He's just not quite the superstar that he was last year. Perhaps it's just a bit of a lull, figuring out his new role within the team, as the entire of the Chiefs has, I don't know, had mixed results trying to adapt to these new roles and the new roster changes. But yeah, it's certainly going to go begging for that loss as the Dockerby and her util dies alongside her. The ability to get that free information is going to be incredibly disappointing.
Certainly is, but it's still a position they can bounce back from. It's not comfortable, but it's something. I think important as well, Worthy on an operator that, in this lineup, fairly dispensable. So that's good. 90 seconds to play though. Chiefs have gotten in and finally gotten some good vertical control here. Going to absolutely tear up this 4. Try and push out these Elevate players on site so at least they can start to push down and form and execute. But Where this round will be won and lost is really how they get to site here. You can see on those outlines, Elevate super spread out now around site. Only one player really close in proximity to the bomb site. Outside of that, you can see they're all off that site. They're playing around VIP, they're playing around Bakery. It's really good from Elevate, to be honest, because they're capitalizing on the fact that Chiefs haven't applied any pressure elsewhere. It's literally just vertically, so they can spread out. It just means that as Chiefs try and enter site, it's going to be about these gunfights, or they're going to have to fight off probably quite a strong retake from Chiefs.
There's Yokai's present as well. Now, Chiefs do have some good info on Mark, and he goes down, but the C4, meanwhile, is taking down Bouncin. More info on the red hallway player. That's Mr. Punch. Bouncin, rather Boydie, finding his second pick, a 3-on-3 now, but 30 seconds, and Sapper is still alive, as are the Yokais. This is a huge opportunity now for Elevate, but also for the Chiefs to try and stave off match point. They must drop into the crossfire. Digital taken down solo, but not out just yet. It's going to have to be Elevate for the retake. Do the Chiefs have info on the Yokai? They have to plant it. Digital is getting that diffuser down. It's denied, but the second Yokai is there and ready to clutch the round for Sapper. Elevate have found themselves on match point.
Just really well played from Elevate. In general, that round, look, I want to give them massive credit for that one. They played that beautifully. They, like I said, they absorbed the vertical pressure. They just got off site, didn't worry about it. The flanks may be a little unnecessary, but at the end of the day, it did keep Chiefs guessing, kept them a little bit frantic. And then when they dropped for their execute, they didn't overextend. They knew they had those Yokais in a great position, and it was managed perfectly by Sapper. I can tell you, we see a lot of times, there might be Yokais in those positions. Sometimes it's botched by the Echo player. Not this time. It was played beautifully.
I also think, you know, Chiefs on their best day would have looked for those Yokais. They would be checking the ceiling because they're not invisible anymore, and they were in pretty easy to see spots, if we're honest. But Chiefs on their best day would have taken them out. Chiefs are just struggling at the moment, like the immense pressure that they have felt. And I think it's all epitomized in what happened in round 5, the 2 versus 5 clutch from Onigiri and Sapper. That has resonated throughout the rest of this match. Chiefs have found it so difficult to get back on the horse with the, to be frank, embarrassment that Elevate managed to accomplish. And now, match point, Chiefs with 4 rounds to find, haven't found an attack round as of yet. This is going to be very, very scary, but this is their best chance of getting back in the game. Right here, wipe the slate clean, go and attack Reading Fireplace, the tertiary site for Elevate. They have no choice. They can't reattempt the bomb sites that they've already won as of yet. This is your chance, Chiefs, to get back into it.
It is, and they don't have many other chances. In fact, they don't have any other chances. They have to win this round. They have to win another 3 after this round, as the position they've found themselves in. So, yeah, time to go big, and oh no. DCH has done it to them again. 30 seconds in, he's found the pick onto Bouncin, and my, that's not going to help the mindset, Dev.
No, the spawn peaks have been persistent from Elevate, and it's DCH of all players doing it as well. Not necessarily known to be one of the top fraggers on the team, but he has stepped up. Speaking of top fraggers, here's Worthy, and he hasn't been even a shadow of his usual self here in this match. Something is very, very deeply wrong with the Chiefs right now. They are so much better than what they're displaying in the server right now.
Yeah, and look, I will quickly touch on it now. I feel like Chiefs definitely lost this in the veto. I will say it's not necessarily their fault, though, because if you look back at what they banned, from memory, it was like Oregon and Chalet, 2 better, maybe it wasn't Chalet. I can't remember. It was just 2 of Elevate's better maps. So when I looked at it, it made sense. Like, they have to ban those. But what it leaves them with after Elevate's bans is not a lot of maps that we've either seen them play or they are strong at. So I think that is always the downside as well when you do roster changes. Your map pool shortens a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what they've fallen victim to here in a way. But at the same time, Elevate playing beautifully. They have been executing some fantastic plays on Kafe here. Some really good defenses. Chiefs, they've got a minute to try and turn this round around. Otherwise, their hopes could be gone.
Oh, Ethan's got to thread that needle. Worthy does find Mr. Punch on for the flank. Mark is very low HP, but he is supported by a second player. Ethan has his nades. He could try and use them to clear that position, but now he's forced back. Oh, but okay. The canister is detonated. Worthy does find on a Geary. That is, if there's any player in the server you want to take out, it's the guy with the 4.0 KD. 50 seconds ticking away, and it's 3-on-3 for Chiefs.
Important to remember too, this is just one part of this attack here. They need to try and get this cocktail control for one, and then they have to get into a position to execute. Mark though, he's going to be low, he's going to be spotted, and he's going to be picked off. So all the pressure on DCH right here to try and save this round for Elevate.
But he's retaken upstairs. There's only 25 seconds to go. There's some info as well. Just the Lion of Digital and Ethan. Now, there may well have been a player on that drone. There doesn't appear to be any vertical lines of sight. Now the Chiefs have to make a desperate and last-minute decision where to plant. The E1D goes out. DCH stands still. Digital to plant this diffuser, and it's on Ethan to cover. DCH for the map has got to retake, spots out the first player. Ethan is down. It is all on Digital with the V308. He's got the stuns, but does he have the guts to clutch it? DCH! Another clutch for Elevate, and a 7-2 for the Thai team as they jump up above the Chiefs into a playoffs position.
Wow, that was a huge clutch there from DCH. And you can see Chiefs probably not too happy with the result of that one. They're already out of the server. Lobby. And look, Elevate absolutely clapped them out of the server in that game. It wasn't close in the end. A huge performance from Elevate.
Wow, I cannot believe that game result. That is unreal. What a performance from Elevate. Chiefs absolutely went into that as the favored team, and Elevate slapped them silly. What a performance from the Thai team that has so much riding on them and so much to redeem after a slow start to the stage. They have taken the most dominant win so far.